Okay, so today we have our, we're going to talk about time, and we have our word problem, which is Matt left for a road trip at 7:15 a.m. He arrived at his final destination at 2:30 p.m. How long did it take Matt to reach his final destination? So we're going to be working with our linear model here. This linear model represents the time that elapses between 7:15 and 2:30. So each length represents an hour. So in between each length is an hour. And then these little tick marks are 15-minute increments. So I want to address real quick that when we go to calculate our time that elapsed here in a second, we will cross over our 12 o'clock hour eventually. So that means that when we're going to be working in our AM hours, because Matt left at 7:15 a.m. And when we cross over our 12 o'clock hour, that puts us into our PM hours. And then you don't switch back. You only switch between AM and PM when you cross over the 12 o'clock hours. A misconception that students may have about this is when they are counting this elapsed time, when they get to 12, they'll think that they go to 13 next. But for this case, we're actually regrouping in sets of 12, so we'll actually begin with 1 again. So before we begin calculating our elapsed time, I want to talk about our time place value chart. This is where we're going to keep track of our time that elapses on our timeline, and this is kind of like our base 10 ones, tens, hundreds charts, because it has our minutes columns and our hours columns. Just like in our ones, tens, hundreds charts, we have our ones column, our tens column, and our hundreds column. So when we go back and record here, we're going to keep track of it. So let's go ahead and go over our number line, or our linear model. So we know that Matt started his road trip at 7:15 a.m. So I'm going to kind of put my little mark at 7:15 a.m. right here. And so to kind of make this easier, we're going to make our 15-minute jump to 7:30. So I'm going to mark that I jumped 15 minutes, keep track of it up here. And so now, since we went to 7:30, that makes our next jump to our hour easier. So that makes it a 30-minute jump. So now we can jump in hours, or 60 minutes. So here's an hour jump, and here's an hour jump. Here's an hour jump. And don't forget, we're still in our AM hours, but with our next hour jump, we're going to be, here's our hour jump, we're going to be at 12 p.m. or noon, and that makes us crossing into the PM hours now. So let's continue on. Here's our hour jump. And then here is another hour, a jump of another hour. And so now we are at 2 o'clock p.m. Matt's arrival time is 2:30 p.m. So now to get to our arrival time, we need to do a jump of 30 minutes. So now that we arrived at our arrival time. So now we're going to record it into our chart. So here is our 15 minutes. I'm getting this off our timeline, or off our linear model, our jumps. But I want to talk about, before we go any farther, you see here I put my colons here, or my colon here. We have to do this to show us the difference between hours and minutes. So that's very important, and that needs to be done. So now we have our 15 minutes, and so I'm going to record our next jump, which was 30 minutes with my colon. And now I have a jump of an hour next. So there's our hour jump. And then there's our next hour jump. And then that one. For that hour jump. let me go back and I'm going to count my hours. So I know I have my 15 minutes. I can check that off. And I know I have my 30 minutes, so I can kind of check that off at the beginning. So now I'm going to go through and check off. So I have an hour, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What I'm doing here is making sure that I have everything. I'm transferring everything so we can add our elapsed time from my linear model to my time tracker or base value chart. And so now I have 30 minutes that needs to be added. So that one's checked. So now we can add these up. And just like base 10 place value, since we are working since an hour, since we're in time, we're in base 60 instead of base 10. But base 60 and base 10 relate because you still have to be careful with the different place values. So I'm going to start adding, but we're starting in the minutes. So we have 5 right here, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't forget your colon. And then, so that's our minutes. So let's add our hours now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 hours. So this says that it took Matt 6 hours and 75 minutes to get to his destination. But remember, we're working in base 60, and 75 is bigger than 60. So that means that we can remove 60 from this. So I'm going to go off to the side right here. And I'm going to take my minutes, which is 75, and I'm going to subtract 60 from them. And remember, this 60 is 1 hour. So we know that. So now 5 and 0 is 5, and 7 minus 6 is 1. So we had 15 minutes left over when we took away 60. So let's go back up here. We know the 60 was in another hour that we can add. So we now have 7 hours and 15 minutes. So the way I wrote this is like this. And another misconception that students might think is that they may see this, the way this is written, and think, 7:15, like the time, either AM or PM. But it's actually because in the way we're working, our colons, remember, separate the minutes and the hours. This is actually 7 hours and 15 minutes. So it took Matt 7 hours and 15 minutes to reach his final destination.